Welcome to this episode of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. I'm Betsy Moore. The following program is one in a series of programs on various topics of public interest that concerns the Circuit Clerk's office, their various departments, and the issues they deal with. These programs are produced by the Office of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Tony Libri in the hope that the information contained in them will help you better understand the role and the scope of the Sangamon County Circuit Clerk's office.
Welcome to Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. Today's program is on orders of protection. This program was picked, if you will, by our viewers saying this is one of the programs that they wanted to see the most. So we've come up with a couple of talented people that can answer all the questions you might have about orders of protection. To my right is Judge Nardulli, who pretty much presides over the OP court here at Sangamon County. And welcome, sir. And Erica Carlove, who is the Director of Court Services for the Sojourn Women's Center. Is that how you say it?
Sojourn Shelter and Services.
Well, we are glad to have you both here today. Thank you. A very serious topic, something that where if it wasn't for the court, we would have some even bigger problems out there. This is orders of protection. What is an order of protection, Your Honor? What do people want an order of protection?
Well, there's really two different kinds of orders that are designed to solve disputes between different people. There are domestic violence orders, which are designed to deal with domestic situations between family members, people with a dating relationship, and those are historically been called orders of protection. And in the last few years, the legislature enacted a statute to deal with no-contact orders and stalking orders, which are designed to deal with conflicts between people who do not have a family relationship. Same kind of relief is available in both kinds of orders. No, domestic violence orders can be entered based upon a single incident of dispute, confrontation between family members. Civil no-contact orders require more of a course of conduct, probably extending over certainly more than a day, to prevent someone from harassing someone else.
Okay, Erica, we're going to get with you in a second here, but an order of protection is an order from the court saying that you must stay away from this person. Is that correct?
Well, yes.
In a nutshell?
In a nutshell. With the domestic violence orders, it goes significantly beyond that. Not only is it an order that would direct somebody to stay away from someone else, we have the authority to give someone the exclusive possession of a residence. We have authority to give someone exclusive possession of children. We have the authority to suspend visitation between a non-custodial parent and their children. It goes way beyond simply ordering people to stay away from each other.
So this is serious business.
It's very serious business because, I mean, those are some of the things that are most important to people, their family, their home, their children, and we deal with all of those in domestic violence.
All right, so you're one of the individuals that a person applying for an OP, we call it, will eventually come across. But before they get to you, Your Honor, they're going to come to the circuit clerk's office, I would assume, unless they've been given advice to go see you at some other facility. But they're going to come in and say, I need an order of protection. As a matter of fact, every morning when I come into work, there's people waiting in line saying, hey, I need an order of protection, what do I do? So they'll come and see one of our clerks, and they will give them a packet that contains this amount of information, so it's voluminous here. But there's a lot of questions and a lot of information that needs to be ascertained. So let's say we give them this packet, we refer them to you and Sojourn for their assistance. So you provide legal assistance, is that fair to say?
We provide advocacy with the petition process.
Are you an attorney? I mean, are there attorneys?
The court advocates are not attorneys. They're not able to provide legal advice.
Okay, just like we are. We're not advised, or we're not able to give legal advice, but I guarantee you know what you're talking about when they come to see you, so that's a positive thing.
The court advocates are very familiar with the process.
And you do this every day?
Correct.
Or and maybe that's a good question. Are you here every day?
We are. We do have court advocates that are located here in the Sangamon County building.
All right.
Monday through Friday. So every day there are court advocates available in our office space, which is located just outside of courtroom 6B.
So we try to respect everybody's privacy when they come in as much as possible. So we don't ask for specifics. We give them the packet and say, we suggest that you go talk to a representative at Sojourn, and here they are. So let's say you take this individual or individuals into your office. What is a example of a conversation that goes on?
Well, the first thing that we're going to find out when they come to our office with the petition is what the relationship is between the parties, and kind of find out what is going on, what the situation is that's requiring the order of protection, or what the need is for the order of protection. And then the court advocate's job is then to work with that victim on working through the petition, getting the petition filled out, making sure that it's appropriately filled out, and then working with the victim on what those scenarios are that are presented as far as what situation occurred. Oftentimes there's multiple situations that have occurred, and so we're making sure that we have that information so that we can give them the best advocacy or support around what's going to take place once the petition is then filed.
So do you stand up with that person in front of the judge and say, Judge, we're here to help? I mean, obviously the judge knows who you are and why you're there. So, I mean, are you there as a support mechanism also for these individuals?
We are there for emotional support. We do not speak on behalf of the victims. The victims, speak to the judge directly. But we are there, and we are able to approach with the victim, towards the judge's bench to provide that, additional emotional support that may be necessary.
Right there, and we'll talk about emergency orders of protection. We'll talk about those other things in a minute here. All right, so you have helped this individual fill out the forms, and you've taken them to the court. What time is court every day for OPs? Emergency
order protection court is every day at 1:30 p.m.
All right, and since we've broached that subject, Your Honor, what constitutes an emergency order of protection? What sets that apart from a regular order of protection?
Well, one of the things the judge has to decide in entering the initial order, which on an emergency basis, is whether the harm that is likely to befall the individual who is seeking the order of protection is more likely to occur if they were to give notice to the respondent prior to coming to court. That is, do they anticipate that something bad is going to happen to them before they got to the courthouse if they were required to give notice to the person they're accusing?
So this is very serious. I mean, usually someone's been brutalized, perhaps, beaten up, something like that, or they fear for their life or their safety. And they're saying, no, Your Honor, we need to talk about this now. I mean, that's essentially what the emergency order is.
Right.
And you weigh the evidence that they presented, and then you render a decision based on that evidence.
Right. Person comes into court, they've filled out a petition with frequently with Sojourn's assistance. They come up to the bench, we swear them in, and then the judge will ask them questions about the petition that they filed. Probably the first question that gets asked in some form, probably not directly, but in some form, is what makes this an emergency sufficient for us to hear your case without giving notice to the other side? Judges are very concerned about making certain we can hear both sides of a story. It's very hard to make a decision when you only hear one side of a story, but if there's a situation in which the petitioner has a legitimate fear that they are going to be harmed, if the other person were given notice prior to them showing up in court, then we will hear it. We can enter those orders at that time. The orders are for a limited period of time. They have to be set by statute for a period between 14 and 21 days from the time that the person comes in asking for the emergency order. That gives the sheriff the opportunity to serve the respondent with the petition, and if an order was entered with the order, and then we would hear during that time period, we would then hear the case where we can hear both sides of the story.
So the emergency is a stopgap kind of measure.
It's very much a stopgap measure.
Okay. I imagine sometimes as a judge, and I've seen you and your fellow judges in court, and I'm just going, you know what, I couldn't do that. 'Cause every decision you make, could affect someone's life or does affect someone's life, and you have to be able to. I mean, you got to have the wisdom of Solomon to go, you know what, this isn't right, or this is what we're going to have to do. And I'd imagine when I imagine it'd be primarily women coming in requesting an OP. I realize it's both sides, but it's primarily women, I would assume. I would just think that, oh my goodness, it's hard to believe that these kinds of things happen, and it's necessary to have a court like this. How many cases do we get a year? Orders of protection.
Last year it was right at 2,500. The year before it was right at 2,500.
And that's just right here, in essence, in Sangamon County. Okay, this is the 10th largest county in the state, so we're not big by any means, but that's still a large number. So how busy does your office stay with OPs?
We stay very busy with order of protection work. Not only once we help them with the emergency order of protection process, we follow that case into the plenary level. So we have a large number of victims, that we're assisting on a daily basis with the petition work, and then following through into the emergency order through to the plenary order. So.
Do you offer other services? I mean, how far do you take your relationship with your clients, so to speak?
Well, we definitely do have other services, not only our court advocacy program, which is primarily based here in the county building. And so the work that we're doing with the clients while they're going through their court process, but we also then have counseling services that are available. And those services take place at our 1800 Westchester Boulevard location, which is where our office space is located, our agency office.
Do you have a shelter, that type of thing?
The shelter is also located at that. It's a secured site, so it is but the emergency shelter is also located at that site.
Now, I would assume, do you take everybody that comes to you, or do you, because of limited space and ability, you can say we can only do so much for this type of case?
Correct. Sojourn is a domestic violence agency, so we do work with the victims of domestic violence only, and we do have an assessment process that we do go through, to make sure that the individuals are qualifying for those victim services. And once through that assessment process, we can identify what services are of the most need to each individual client, because everybody's situation differs.
Right.
So.
And you'll determine what help you can give them at the time that you meet them when they come here, I would assume.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, we're gonna take just a brief pause here, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna talk about what is required to get an order of protection. What are the different types of protection that you could perhaps give them, and we'll talk about those protections, if you will, when we return in just a moment. Welcome back to Circuit Clerk Presents. Today's topic is orders of protection. We are honored to be sitting next to Judge Nardulli, as well as Erica Carlove, who is the Director of Court Services for Sojourn, and we're delighted that both of you could be here today. Let's talk about, we've talked about orders of protection. What other things can the court offer someone if they can't have an order of protection?
Well, when a person comes in and asks for either an order of protection or a no-contact order, they generally come in seeking emergency help. The judge will try to determine whether or not they're entitled to an emergency, but even if they're not entitled to an emergency order, they might be entitled to an order where, in a situation where the judge has heard both sides of the story. So we will schedule them for a hearing. Those hearings are every Thursday morning in courtroom 5C, where we will have anywhere from 45 to 75 cases scheduled every Thursday. We have 3 judges assigned to hear those cases that morning, and we hear all of those cases that day. One thing I wanted to say, it's not just boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife who are coming through domestic violence court. We have a lot of situations in which elderly individuals are seeking protection from someone who's trying to take advantage of them. We have situations in which neighbors, particularly since the no-contact statute was enacted, we have a lot of neighbors coming in. We've addressed arguments where boundary disputes over a driveway and somebody was poisoning somebody else's flower bed. We've handled disputes in which high school girls are arguing about a boyfriend. They don't have a family relationship, they don't have a dating relationship, but the dispute has gotten out of hand. we frequently have to issue orders that are designed to keep students apart from each other in school, trying to make sure that we don't inadvertently order somebody out of school while they're waiting for the hearing.
So it's not just a husband and wife who had a spat. It's not just a boyfriend girlfriend. It could be just about any scenario.
I wouldn't be surprised if more than half of the cases are cases that involve something other than husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend.
All right. What's the difference between an order of protection and a no contact order? And do they have to specifically apply for one of the other, or do you just say you don't want this, you want this, so let's work this angle?
Sojourn or the clerk's office helps people identify which of those two kinds of cases they need to bring. A domestic violence order implies that there has been a domestic relationship, husband-wife, dating relationship, brother-sister, parent-child, common residence.
So there are certain requirements.
There are requirements that there would be some kind of a family relationship, dating relationship, residential relationship, something like that. A few years ago, there have been no contact orders for a very long time, but up until a few years ago, the no contact orders required actual sexual contact between individuals. They were designed to protect people who did not have a family or dating relationship, but who were still the victims of a sexual kind of an offense.
It was a catch-all kind of thing.
Right, but it was just for sexual offenses, and someone in the legislature realized that if we expanded the statute to prevent stalking, we could hopefully prevent a lot of these sexual crimes from being committed. A person realizes that they are being stalked, followed by somebody who they, for whatever reason, they can come. The intention was to protect those people before the sexual crime occurred. In expanding the definition of the statute, they expanded it to any kind of harassment that is ongoing. I don't think the legislature really intended, in fact I know from talking to some legislators, that they did not have any idea that they were expanding the statute so that it now extends to any kind of a relationship where people have been in conflict with each other for a period of time.
Even a bully in school kind of situation.
We have had cases in which a group of teenagers has come in asking for no contact orders against another group of teenagers. We have had individuals coming in asking for no contact orders against 7 or 8 or 9 individuals that we frequently get landlord-tenant disputes. We have had landlords come in who have people who are terrorizing their other tenants, so they come in trying to get protection for themselves and their other tenants. We have tenants coming in who are seeking protection against landlords because they claim that the landlord is harassing them to get them out of their apartment, and they view this as a way to shortcut the forcible entry and detainer landlord-tenant courts.
Okay, so there are different scenarios that would dictate your actions from the court, but how about Sojourn? Where do you drop off offering assistance? I mean, do you say we don't do this stuff, we only concentrate on OPs? Is there a delineation there?
Right. We concentrate on orders of protection, which are because of the qualifying relationship that requires.
Okay.
Those victims would qualify for our agency services. The individuals or scenarios that are involved in the stalking no contact orders that Judge Nardulli has mentioned, those individuals do not qualify for domestic violence services because there is no significant or relationship, family relationship.
A familia type of thing.
So, so those individuals do not require for our services. They do come up to our office frequently.
Right.
If we're available or not assisting one of the victims who does qualify for our services, then they certainly can use our office space. We are there. We are familiar with the forms. But with our services being focused on domestic violence victims and that significant relationship, we are looking at providing services where there has been a significant relationship, in which case the relationship has been unhealthy or there's been issues with safety in the relationship.
All right, so you're not getting involved in the school bully type of situation.
Correct.
Then. Okay,
Correct.
Let me ask you a question. And maybe this is modern folklore, but I mean, what is the rate of recidivism, but, you know, people asking for orders of protection? Do you keep track of that kind of thing, Your Honor, or Eric?
I don't know a specific
We don't
rate.
want to make light of it,
but
but...
I do know that we often work with victims who, this is not their first time that they've been involved in the order of protection process. And the statistics with our victims that we work with do show that a domestic violence victim will leave the abusive person in the relationship 7 to 9 times before they're able to safely get out of that relationship. And so that statistic alone tells us as professionals working in the field that we're going to have multiple contacts with them. We're going to have ongoing contact with them because we need to make sure that when they're getting out of the relationship, they're doing it in the safest way possible. And
you both understand that recidivism rate there. So, I mean, you take that into consideration, Your Honor, when you're talking to these people? Or?
One of the things that we ask the clerk's office to do each day when we are getting ready to do emergency orders of protection is we ask the clerk's office to pull every file that they have that relates to either of the individuals. And so we will have, so the clerk's office will bring to the courtroom sometimes a large stack of files, 6, 8 inches thick, involving prior orders of protection between the two individuals, prior convictions for domestic battery, which is something that is very telling. Their divorce cases or their parentage cases where courts have entered custody and visitation orders previously to try to help the judge understand the nature of the dispute. But it is very common to have the clerk's office bring 6, 8, 10, 12 files to the courtroom involving 2 individuals who are involved in a domestic dispute because their history of domestic turmoil has gone on for years and years and years. And
I would guess that you could tell if it's escalating, you know, in a dangerous way or if it's just a routine thing. Do you ever talk to these people, Mary, just stay away from Joe when he's drinking? I mean, does it ever get down to something like that? I don't mean to minimize it, but or do you say, Mary, you need to, or is that your job to say, Mary, you need to just get out of this situation?
We probably do a lot more of the counseling, advising as far as on safety steps or tactics that they can use in their relationship. One of the things with our counseling program, which is available for both male and female victims of domestic violence, is that we really focus on that cycle of violence. It definitely is cyclic in nature, and so we try to help the victim understand how that cycle works. We also work with them and talk with them very closely around the power and control dynamics that are involved in domestic violence. Domestic violence encompasses a lot of areas. Oftentimes people think of the physical aspect that domestic violence portrays, but there's also a lot of emotional, psychological abuse that goes on in those relationships as well. So that is a very important concept that our program does work with the victims on.
You know, we talk about your 2 offices and the clerk's office working in conjunction and trying to, you know, help these people. But I've got to tell you, once you've been given an order of protection, once you've been given this court order signed by Judge Nardulli as an example, people think it makes them bulletproof. And I think you would probably be the first to say this paper does not make you bulletproof.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What do you tell somebody? Say, yes, we're going to grant you this order of protection, but you must realize that it only does certain things. Is that something that you have to warn these people about, Your Honor?
In fact, every week, at least when I'm sitting in domestic violence court, I make a point of telling people that, helping them understand that it's the responsibility of the respondent to stay away from the petitioner, but I try to help the petitioners understand that they cannot give the respondent permission to violate the order of protection. Many of these people have children together, and there is a natural tendency after the angst of the moment has passed to call up the other side and say, look, you know, we were angry, we had a fight, but for the good of our children, why don't you come on over and have Sunday dinner, and we'll talk about this. You can see the kids, and I try to help. We try to help people understand that
that's a no-no.
That's a no. You can't do that because, you know, frequently the dispute erupts again when they're back in the household. And judges try very hard not to, excuse the term, but not to judge people for coming back multiple times. We try to understand that sometimes an emergency order of protection took care of the problem at the moment. The moment has passed, the problem has been taken care of, and people can move on without a long-term domestic violence order. We try to understand that there are economics that drive people back together. Children drive people back together, and we try to understand those. It can be very hard for judges who sit there and will take a look and see that someone has gone back to their abuser 5, 6, 7, 8 times without lecturing them about going back. But that is not our role.
That's not your job.
Our role is try to understand how can we deal with this situation, putting it in the context of the history between those parties. You know,
you're a human being, and you've got to, after some of these hearings, you've got to say to yourself, my goodness, what is going through some of these people's minds? I mean, it really has to take its toll on you sometimes. Yeah, I bet it does.
Yes.
Yes.
Simple answer is yes.
And I couldn't imagine that, and thank goodness I'm not in that situation. Now, Sojourn, again, will help individuals who need your assistance. What is the best way to get a hold of you if it's a weekend, as an example, when the circuit clerk's office is closed and we're not there to refer them to you?
Right. We do have a 24-hour hotline number where we can be reached 7 days a week, and that number is area code 217-726-5200. And again, that number is staffed 24/7. So there is a counselor available every day of the week, every hour of the week, to assist victims, even if it is the weekend or even in evening hours when things happen as on occasion.
How does your organization, how is it funded? How are you able to do these wonderful things?
We are primarily funded through Department of Human Services.
Okay, so there's some government assistance there. Okay.
And then we also do have some, we also are a United Way agency. We also have some other grant funding opportunities that we have with different entities.
Sure.
Some of our program is funded federally, some of our court program is funded federally. And so combined together, different programs have different funding subsidies, but the state is our primary.
Okay, so you are here for the people every day that the county's open.
We are.
And one thing that we didn't touch on, but perhaps if you could give me 30 seconds of your opinion, Your Honor, social media, how is that interplay now? Can you give me just a real brief, I mean, is that even involved?
A day does not go by in which someone does not come into my courtroom showing me the texts that have been sent back and forth by their smartphones, or page after page of Facebook postings and the like.
So it's part of the process now. It's embedded in there.
And people use social media, use texting, social media to stir the pot.
To stalk, sure, to stir the pot.
To stir the pot, to increase the anxiety. Years ago, people could disappear into different parts of the city, and they might go months and months and months without seeing each other.
It's hard now.
It's hard now.
Well, Your Honor, what a pleasure to be with you, and I hope we've answered some of the basic questions that you might have if you are interested in getting an order of protection or a no contact order, something of that nature. My thanks to Judge Nardulli, who is here every day, and so is Erica Carlove, who is the Director of Court Services for Sojourn. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time on Circuit Clerk Presents.
Thank you for watching this episode of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Presents. These programs are produced by the Office of Sangamon County Circuit Clerk Tony Libri for your benefit and to help you in your interaction with the court system. They're accessible on the Circuit Clerk's website, YouTube channel, as well as the City of Springfield's Public Access Channel 4. I'm Betsy Moore.